that was a real crack. Okay. Psychedelics on their own are not going to boost your mental health. They are not going to make you a better person, inherently by virtue of you sitting with them. Common misconception. If anybody tells you that, that's a red flag. That's a red flag. Wow, okay. I see your new backdrop. Got a little something new going on here. All right, a little something new and a little something sweet for the kids. All right, hello and welcome. I'm excited about today's video because I made this TikTok as a joke.
Don't nobody ask you shit, just stop. Walk the fuck away, walk away.
And I started getting comments like this. So apparently, y'all do want to know how I prepare for the psychedelic journey. And I am here to tell you how I get ready for a trip. Let's get into it. Today, I'm gonna be going over 6 crucial pieces of psychedelic trip preparation. And if you get something out of this video, you enjoy it, etc., please consider subscribing. We're making our way to 5,000 subs. I appreciate everyone who comes and comes back. If you're new here, welcome. I am Chrysanthus, and this channel is a realm dedicated to psychedelics and sacred plant medicine. We're all about demystifying and destigmatizing the trip. So, let's get into demystifying trip preparation.
The following video is made for the purpose of education and harm reduction. We are not promoting the use, procurement, or possession of any plant medicine or substance. We encourage everyone to do further research and prioritize safety.
All right, is there a place I can put this paper? That would be perfect right there. My first tip for trip prep, number 6, plan far out in advance. I'll speak to what I like to do. I plan all of my journeys at least 2 weeks out in advance. I used to sometimes spontaneously journey, and I noticed a significant difference in quality between my typical spontaneous journey and my typical planned journey. And there's somewhat of a reason for this, right? The reason I like to plan 2 weeks out is because I like to figure out who all gonna be there. All right. I like to figure out who's my trip sitter gonna be, who is possibly going to be co-journeying with me, I get my cast of characters all together. And I think just etiquette-wise for me, if I'm asking for someone to journey with me, I typically will offer them the incentive of gifting the substance. So it's not like, would you like to journey with me and can you also pay me half, please? It's like, will you journey with me and I will foot the bill. I'll take you out to dinner, so to speak. Especially because this is always my friends or like my partner. And that's really more so for LSD. I understand that for mushrooms, things can get a little expensive. So you might not want to be necessarily footing the bill at Nobu, so to speak. Okay? You might want to go halfsies, and that's totally understandable. But you'll have a solid idea of who else gonna be there. If you need a trip sitter / designated driver, have that. I do not recommend tripping alone. People ask me about that in the comment sections all the time. I might make a video about like the dangers of tripping alone, but basically it's like, what's the worst that could happen? When you're journeying, certain common sense parts of your brain regress to a childlike state. So, I don't know, making cookies and then going to bed and completely forgetting that you made cookies. What's the worst that could happen? You can answer that for yourself, but things along the line of that, just like very simple things that in the real world, you typically wouldn't be such a fire hazard, to put it lightly. People have been known to become greater fire hazards, especially when journeying alone. So when you're with somebody else, they could be like, didn't we make cookies? Or did you make an alarm for those cookies? And that's just one example. So we're gonna plan this out like we're planning a vacation for a child, right? So would you leave a child alone in your house for 6 to 8 hours? I personally would not. I would find that child a friend or a trip sitter. So we are going to find you a friend, right? 2 weeks out. You don't have to go by this. Again, this is just how I do my thing, and it's all for harm reduction. So if anything seems a little extra, you can bet that it's probably there for a reason, and that reason is harm reduction. Food. Food is very important. So personally, this is room for improvement for me, because I don't always do the best planning for food, but you want to be able to get some groceries, have some fresh fruits to eat, have some nice food, maybe a Grubhub order that you put in prior to journeying so it arrives at a certain time. You want to have food figured out, because when I tell you, it is really hard when you are in the thick of a journey to decide not just what you feel like eating, but additionally how you are going to procure that food. It's not so simple. I think about a edible paper experience I had about a month ago, and we were fine. We got the food, but even like going downstairs to find the Grubhub driver was like a thing. So it's a solid idea that you have a food plan figured out if you don't have food there to eat. Next again, we're planning a little journey, we're planning a little vacation for a kid. So what activities are we gonna have for that kid? What does that kid like to do? What does your kid like to do? Does your kid like to draw? Does your kid like to do crafts? I wouldn't suggest anything too crafty, like anything involving needles or hot glue. Chuck that idea out the window, all right? But simple crafts, even painting could be fine. Watercolors, amazing, an amazing experience to have when you're journeying. And then locations. So where are you gonna be? For inexperienced journeyers, I highly recommend being at your house, starting out at your house. If you feel good enough, going outside, again, with somebody else. But you know, there's so much out there. There's so much out there. That journeying outside of your house is its own whole entire ordeal, right? For certain people, like myself, who don't have all the privileges in the world, there's law enforcement outside. You know, there's law enforcement out there. And even though where I live, psychedelics are being deprioritized in terms of law enforcement, I don't want to have an officer looking at me some sort of way because I'm out and journeying. So I like to spend my time in parks, like state parks, where there are really nice hikes. I like to spend my time inside at my house. On a light journey, I've been known to go to a museum or two, but that is when you are functional, you know? So make sure you know what functional looks like before you give the museum journey a try. But it's a lovely experience, and just, yeah, know what activities you're gonna do. Have fun. And the last piece of plan out and far ahead prep that I'm going to give y'all is at that 2-week mark, when you're 2 weeks ahead of your journey. Get your playlist ready, okay? Don't wait till the night before to get your playlist ready. And if you're looking for a nice little starting place in terms of curating your own psychedelic playlist, I have created 2 psychedelic journeying playlists for y'all. They are available on Spotify. We have my upbeat playlist and my mellow playlist. I also have made 2 videos going into both of them, and also how to procure your own psychedelic playlist. So if you haven't checked out those videos, they're some of the most fun videos I've made. Please save them to your watch later playlist and be sure to check them out. I promise they're bops. I promise. There's some artists on there that I absolutely stan. So music can be very important, a very important aspect. Side note, have your speaker charged and ready, because music can really take your hand and guide you through the journey in the most lovely way. Number 5, plan out your aftercare. Plan out some of your integration. What does the next day look like for you? Hopefully, in an ideal situation, you can journey on a Friday or a Saturday and you don't have to go to work the next day. Because what you're looking at doing the next day, it really can affect your journey, especially if you're someone who has anxiety about the future and whose mind is a few steps ahead of where they are. If be here now is a goal for you, I know it is somewhat of a goal for me. Yes, if be here now is a goal for you, please make sure that the next day you can chill out. I highly recommend maybe going for a hike the next day, maybe scheduling some nice self-care activities, a bath, a massage, some kind of ritual, and just have that day for yourself. Do what you want to do. Journeys can be challenging, so put aside some time and figure out what that's going to look like for you. How are you gonna pamper yourself? How are you gonna rest? How are you gonna hydrate? Hopefully that day can be as clear for you as possible and you can just chill. Number 4, check in with yourself. So, starting 2 weeks, taking it into 1 week, taking it into the day before. Constantly check in with yourself. Even if you've made plans to be with somebody else, check in with yourself that this is something you actively feel called to do. And that can change, and that is fine. Keep it real with yourself. Why do you feel called to sit with this specific medicine? How much do you want to sit with? I talk a lot about set and setting on this channel, having a solid setting, environment around you, and being in a solid mindset, state of mind. Let's say something really challenging and unexpected happens, and you're not in the same set anymore, even if you have the setting nailed down. Hopefully, for me, I try to keep my journeying plans fluid so that if something really affects my state of mind and my mental health, I can have 2 solid weeks of stable mental health prior to journeying. And sometimes that does look like pushing back a journey when things affect that, right? So we're checking in with ourselves. Why do we want to do this? Also, what are some of our goals in sitting with this medicine? What are some things we want to reflect on, meditate on? For me, a lot of the times, I like to think about relationships in my life. I like to think about things like self-improvement. How can I show up for myself and others more? And where are my areas of improvement? A lot of the times when we're not journeying, our ego can be a little bit like, girl, don't look at that. Why are you worried about that? Don't look at that. But when we're journeying, it's much more easier to see ourselves in a critical eye and for our egos to dissolve quite a bit. So I highly recommend that you keep a trip journal, a journey journal, and you can keep track of your goals, your integrations. You can use it while you're journeying, and you can use it for your integration after journeying. Okay, more trip prep. So number 3 is going to be mental preparation. All right, we talked about set and setting. Let's talk a little bit more about that set. For me, my mental preparation looks like having and maintaining a steady mindfulness practice. So that is meditating in the morning, first thing when I wake up. I personally use the Headspace app, but there's also Calm and other free resources you can use. I'm not so great at the second one, but I do like to work with holotropic breathwork as a means of mindfulness. So I personally use the Wim Hof app. You can find holotropic and Wim Hof breathing exercises on YouTube and get into some of that ventilating breath work to clear your mind, to get you to a more steady place. I know the reason I don't do it as much as I would like to is because it is somewhat of a workout for me, and I really am working on right now of getting into better practice with it. But I highly recommend that for y'all. If you haven't tried it yet, it makes solid, beautiful trip preparation, especially when paired with meditation. Ooh, that was a real crack. Okay. Psychedelics on their own are not going to boost your mental health. They are not going to make you a better person. They are not going to levitate you to your dreams and assist you in manifesting, just inherently by virtue of you sitting with them. Common misconception. If anybody tells you that, that's a red flag. That's a red flag. So where do all these mental benefits that we hear about with psychedelics come from? Well, when paired with therapy, psychedelics has a great potential to boost the effects of self-work and self-reflection and therapy. Psychedelics do have therapeutic benefits, but they are a tool, and you are the one primarily putting the work in. The tool does not do the work, so I highly recommend looking at therapy if you have not. Additionally, I highly recommend getting into a solid practice of eating well 2 weeks before journeying, and a solid practice of limiting stressful encounters and stressful situations. So for me, this looks like not talking to certain folks in my life leading up to a journey, because I know that if I call them, there's a 75% chance I'm gonna get a very stressful phone call, or I'm gonna get the hammer laid down on me. If you have folks in your life like that, just let them know you'll be available after a certain time, if you catch my drift. because it doesn't seem like the biggest deal, especially if we're talking to these people on a regular basis. But having a downer of a conversation, or having someone like go really hard on us or put us in a stressful phone call we really don't want to be a part of, it can seriously affect our journey in a not great way. So we want to limit stressors. We want to limit stressors, especially in the week to a few days leading up to your journey. Number 2, and with the exception of a few, I don't hear folks talking about this one enough, and that is to test your substances. Not everybody knows this, but if you're watching this video, now you do. They sell testing kits for everything from this to this. We can test at home. What an innovation. We can test at home. I'm gonna link those test kits in the description of this video, so please be sure to check them out. But yes, testing psychedelics is very important, especially for edible paper, right? Now, if you get edible paper and someone calls that edible paper acid, and you're like, is it real acid? And they're like, oh yeah, it's real acid. Acid, depending on your location, where you live, your community, it can be slang for research chemicals, unfortunately. Acid is not always pure LSD. So when I'm looking for edible paper, I am looking for LSD. I'm looking for the real stuff. I'm looking for the MK Ultra. I'm looking for that good, okay? Acid, on the other hand, I know folks who have bought acid and had awful experiences, and then they check back in with their source. Did you give me LSD? Nope, I gave you acid. All right, you see how that works? So we're gonna use our words. We're gonna make sure that we are testing these substances ourselves to avoid harm. I've also tested mushrooms before. Now, mushrooms have a slightly more reliable sort of a deal going on than edible paper, because typically you can actually see the blue, which I believe is the psilocybin in the mushroom. You can talk to people who have sat with the mushrooms and who could say, yes, this is actual psilocybin mushrooms. I can tell you the strain, they can tell you all that kind of stuff. I still test mushrooms. I still use my little tester kit and make sure it tests positive. I think the dangers with mushroom come with, back in the 90s, apparently some people used to take non-psychedelic mushrooms and lace them with LSD and different research chemicals, and folks used to have really bad and dangerous experiences. I had someone in my comment section actually just relaying this information to me. I have not heard of that done past the 90s, early 2000s, etc. But just to be on the safe side, I test. If you have fresh mushrooms, you can do a spore test, etc., etc. I've never been able to have fresh mushrooms ever, but one day, you know. One day, there's hope. I'm holding out hope. So, yeah. So yes, please, everybody, we're testing our substances. We're not taking the word of our sources as gospel. We are actually doing the work. And for certain psychedelics, like I'm thinking of this one, right? They can be cut. They can be cut with other things. And sometimes they're cut with things that are safe and that we would like to use. But other times I've heard of folks cutting with fentanyl. Evil. Pure evil. But it happens. So fentanyl test strips are great to get to. Let's just all be super safe out here in these streets while everything is still illegal, if we are taking it upon ourselves to do this. Let's all be safe. Number 1, let's talk a bit about some day of prep. So, we are going to get a full night's rest. We are going to wake up when we want to wake up. You know, for me that looks like sleeping in a bit. We are not going to skip breakfast. We're gonna eat a healthy breakfast, a nutritious breakfast. Now, the jury is still out on tripping on empty, right? I personally don't love to trip on an empty stomach. Why? Because I get nauseous. And when I have food in my belly, I'm way less likely to get nauseous. I've noticed. Now, different people might have different experiences. There might be reasons why some people trip on empty. For me, that's just not where I'm at. But y'all do you. The jury is out, so please do your own research. And also, everything that I'm saying in these videos, do not take them as gospel either. Do further research. You know, do your Reddit, your Arrowwits, etc., etc. All right? Read some trip reports. Day of prep, I typically like to limit my social interactions. So that looks like really only communicating with who I absolutely need to communicate with, and nobody else. No additional people. I limit my social media use. Again, we're going to be avoiding stressful scenarios and situations the best we can. And for me, for my day of prep, I like to create ritual. I like to create ritual around this. I like to sit. I like to do some breathing. If I'm with somebody, I like to meditate with them. Maybe light a candle, light some charcoal incense, make the tea if we're making a tea, and take the offering of the tea and, you know, put it out on a little windowsill for the ancestors, sort of a thing. Light a little incense, you know. Just give reverence to all of the ancestors and their sorrows and their joys and the sacrifices that they had to make for me to be able to be right here, journeying with this sacred, beautiful medicine that comes right of the land that I was raised, and that some of them also came from. So, that's a little bit of my ritual. But I say, hey, a ritual is richness. You know, make your own rituals. Create what do you want to do? Maybe it can look like making a secret handshake, doing a little dance. I mean, I think dancing is a great way to get yourself into a trip. You know what I mean? Maybe a little dance party with your friends. That's all good. Make your own ritual. I highly recommend, you know, entering this with mindfulness, giving reverence to this medicine and its sacred roots. If we're talking about magic mushrooms, we're talking about Mexico. We're talking about Oaxaca. We're talking about Maria Sabina. I am working on a Maria Sabina video, and you can expect that coming up pretty soon. But yes, know the roots of your medicine, know what you're getting yourself into, you know, celebrate Bicycle Day. It's all for the culture. It's all for the culture. So those are my 6 basic steps to trip prep. I hope you all have enjoyed this video. If so, please give me a little subby sub. Please subscribe to this channel if you're interested in repping the realm. Right now we have wonderful, wonderful merch available on our thread list, so you can check out these trippy threads that I designed myself and support our channel via our thread list. I am in the process of launching a Patreon, especially with my subscribers. Like I can't tell you. I look at how many new subscribers this channel gets every day, and I'm in such disbelief because the first year and a half, nobody was watching my videos, and that's totally fine. But now folks are watching, and it's time to rev up that Patreon engine. So please look out for my announcement video coming very, very soon, and I will already have my Patreon packed chock full of good goods for y'all. BTS videos, BTS pictures. There's gonna be an exclusive Discord. It's gonna be groovy. So please look out for that. If you like this video, you can also check out my trippy stuff playlist. And this is all my psychedelic videos, all my advice, all that kind of stuff. And yeah, please subscribe to this channel. Thank you for being here. Appreciate you. Thank you for making it all the way to the end of this video. And don't forget to keep it trippy.